3. All right. Welcome to the Average Joe Jiu-Jitsu podcast. This is episode number 2, Nathan Mendelsohn. Nathan Mendelsohn was born on December 10th, 1989 in Santa Cruz, California, making him 31 years old. Nathan is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Claudio, Franca. Nathan was promoted to black belt in December of 2012 and still resides in Santa Cruz, California, and teaches at Claudio Franca Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Santa Cruz, located at 1658 SoCal Drive, Santa Cruz, California, 95065. Nathan has a very extensive competition history as a black belt competitor in both his weight division as well as the absolute division, including 6 gold medals, 5 silver medals, and 9 bronze medals. He took 3rd place at the IBBJJF American Nationals in 2014 in the absolute, 1st place in the IBBJF Irvine Open in 2015, 1st place at the BJJ Tour Nevada 2016 and 2015 in both weight and absolute, 3rd place at the IBBJF San Jose Open in 2016, 3rd place at the IBBJF Boston Open in 2016 in absolute, 3rd place in the IBBJF Asian Open in 2016 absolute and weight, 1st place at IBBJF Seattle Open in 2016, 1st place in BJJ Tour Florida 2016, 2nd place in IBBJF BJJ Tour Los Angeles 2016, 2nd place IBBJF Boston Open 2016, 1st place American Cup 2017 in absolute, 2nd place IBBJF Asian Open in 2017, 2nd place in IBBJF San Jose Open 2017, 3rd place IBBJF San Diego Open in 2017, 3rd place in IBBJF European Open 2018, 1st place in IBBJF American Nationals in 2020, 3rd place recently at the UAE JJF Abu Dhabi World Pro in 2021, and most recently 2nd place at IBBJF New Orleans Open in 2021. Nathan, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, brother. I'm excited.
Awesome. So how did you first get started in martial arts? Was jiu-jitsu your first martial art? And if not, what other martial arts have you practiced, and why did you settle on jiu-jitsu?
I started with karate when I was 4 years old. So I think just because I live near this plaza here in Santa Cruz, and a karate academy opened up in that plaza. And my dad said I used to be into like Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and stuff like that. And so he's like, I would be like doing the moves in the living room and kicking and jumping off the couch. And he's like, well, if you like doing that, why don't we go and do it for real? Let's see if you like it. And I got really into it. And then I transitioned to Taekwondo. After that, when I was 6, there was a Taekwondo academy that it's actually Hokumusol, which is another form of Korean martial arts. And I did that, transition to that when I was 6 years old because the karate academy that I had trained at closed. So I kind of ended up without a place to go. And this Hokumusol academy was near where my dad used to get coffee, which was just down the street. So he's like, oh, let's try here. And it actually ended up being really good. That was Master Jin. I still see Master Jin now. I do CrossFit right next to where that old academy is, and he's still there. So I say hi to him sometimes when I see him and stuff. And I got really into that and would do competitions and be super into that. And then when I was 10 years old, Master Claudio Franca's academy opened in that same plaza where the original karate academy used to be, which is right next to my house. And so my dad was like, oh, maybe we'll try this. My dad actually knew Claudio because my dad was a waiter, and he used to wait on Claudio at the restaurant that he worked at. And Claudio would always be like, oh, come in and try jiu-jitsu. You should try jiu-jitsu. And because my dad would say, oh, my son does martial arts and stuff. And then my dad's like, oh, he's already a black belt in Taekwondo. Like, he doesn't need any other martial arts. He's good. And then finally when the gym opened up next door, then he was like, oh, well, now it's next door. Maybe we'll try it. And then we went and tried it. And then people were like, oh, you should check out the UFC. So I was like 10 years old, and my dad showed me like the first UFC, and everybody's like teeth are getting knocked out and stuff. And he was kind of violent for a 10-year-old, but then we were like, oh, seeing like all the strikers and the Taekwondo guys getting beat up by Hoist Gracie and stuff. We're like, oh, this stuff is actually for real. So and then I just enjoyed jiu-jitsu more. I think I enjoyed the Taekwondo and stuff too, but it was more we did sparring once a week, but we had to do like a lot of katas and they don't call them katas in Taekwondo. I think that's like a Japanese term, but
Yeah.
we call them forms.
Mm-hmm.
And which was cool, but it wasn't, when you do jiu-jitsu and you just get to spar all the time and roll around, and kids just love wrestling with each other,
Mm-hmm.
adults too, obviously, but especially kids want to wrestle, So I think I just kind of fell in love with that right away. And I stuck with both of them for a while, but then I also started doing water polo, and I got really into water polo too. And then I was also in band, and then I was also doing school. And then it was like, okay, this is getting to be too much. So I'm going to have to drop something. Cause I used to do I would do my Taekwondo, go straight from Taekwondo to Jiu-Jitsu, and then straight from Jiu-Jitsu to water polo. And then it was like, come home and do homework. And then I was just like, oh, this is too much. And so I ended up dropping the Taekwondo eventually, and ended up just sticking with jiu-jitsu, and then everything else started falling off too, and the only thing that was left was jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
That's still there.
So I'm going to ask you this just because you competed in jiu-jitsu so much. Did you ever have aspirations in Taekwondo of going to the Olympics?
I mean, we talked about the Junior Olympics when I was a kid. We had heard that was an option, and I mean, I think so. If I would have kept at it, but that wasn't really it wasn't like a factor in my decision making choosing between like Taekwondo and Jiu-Jitsu. Like, I don't think that was even really on my radar back then. But I loved competing. Like, I would have definitely wanted to try to take it as far as I could. But then I was also really into water polo too. And the water polo coach is like, oh, maybe you can get a scholarship for water polo. You can play in college and do all that and stuff. And then I was like, kind of stuck between the two. But I kind of always just had like the consciousness of like jiu-jitsu is something that I can do my whole life. They'll get to be a certain point where I'm probably not going to play water polo anymore, or maybe I'll on the weekends do like a pickup game with other older guys and stuff, but it's not like jiu-jitsu where it's like this is like a lifelong endeavor, so that's something that'll always be there for me.
Right So you actually spent an extensive amount of time training in Brazil, and your first trip was when you were 17.
Yeah.
Wow. How many times have you been to Brazil? Actually, you just recently went, like last month, right?
Yeah, last month. That was my 10th trip to Brazil.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it down there. Now we're starting to do this new business. It's called Jiu-Jitsu Plus camps. So we're taking people down to we're potentially going to do different places in Brazil, but this one that we're focusing on right now is the Rio experience. So we're taking people down to Rio, and we it's either a 7-day or a 10-day trip. We're doing another one on July 31st. So people that are interested, hit me up. You can email me, Nathan Mendelsohn, bjj@yahoo.com, or hit me up on Instagram or anything if you guys are interested in going. We're doing the first trip is going to be 12. We're going to limit it to 12 spots because we want to make sure that we really give everybody the attention they need. We really want to make it the dream trip of people. So since me and Claudio, we can kind of split the group into 2 different groups and take people to do different things. Like we've got a whole agenda planned out, but we definitely want, if there's like anything people want to do, for sure, we want to try to make sure that we get that done for them. We want it to make their dream trip. So make sure that we give everybody the attention they need. We're limiting it to 12 spots. And we've got 5 spots filled up so far. We just opened up registration like last week, so it's going pretty quick, but we're going to try to start doing like 3 or 4 of those a year. So which is nice. I get to start going down to Brazil more often and stuff, but we take people all around, do the Cristo statue, do the Sugarloaf trolley car in Rio. We do like a boat tour where you get to see alligators, and we do surfing and paddle boarding, and then obviously train jiu-jitsu at the best gyms in Rio every day. And me and Claudio are there with people the whole time. I speak fluent Portuguese, so I'm translating for people. Claudio's translating for people, and we stay in a really nice area in Rio, Baja. It's all just BMWs and Mercedes and beautiful people, and never feel sketchy even for a second. Like, it just super cool experience. So that's been cool. So my number of times going to Brazil is about to start spiking up here, because I'm going to start going possibly 3 or 4 times a year.
Is that how you became fluent in Portuguese, just by going down there so often, or did you actually like take a class in it to get started? Or
I never took classes. I took one class when my first time in Brazil, I took a private lesson maybe 2 times during that first trip with the guy named Dennis Ash. He's an old school black belt guy. He was training with Gordo down there. I went down with Paul Schreiner, who's he teaches at Marcelo Garcia's academy, but he's one Claudio Franca black belt. He's like Marcelo Garcia's main instructor now, but I spent my first time down there with him, and he speaks like perfect Portuguese, and I was just like, and he's really good at jiu-jitsu. Like he was a brown belt at the time, but he would win all the tournaments, and the guys down there all respected his jiu-jitsu, and he's like this American guy in Brazil, like speaking Portuguese, and all the guys respected him, and he speaks this perfect Portuguese where the guys couldn't tell whether he was like American or Brazilian. I'm just like, that's so cool. Like I want to be like that one day, you know. But then I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna learn. Portuguese is so hard. And then I took one lesson with Dennis, and there were two Donald Carmody and Patty Carmody, I think were their names. These two Irish guys took the class with me, and their accent was so heavy, like I could barely understand them speaking English. And then trying to learn, I'm still friends with them and stuff. I see them sometimes at tournaments and stuff, but hearing them try to speak Portuguese was like, it was like comedy. It was so funny, them trying to get the words down. And that was the only class I ever did. And then during that time, I would go every year. I was in high school still, and then college after that. And so I would go in the summers. I'd spend like 2 months down there every summer, a month or 2 months, depending. And then, but when I came back, we had like a kind of exchange program of these guys from GF team, like even Adolfo Vieira, Teodoro Canal, some of the guys from Soul Fighters, Tanquinho Mendez, and João Gabriel, and Marcus Antalante, and some of the different guys would come up and stay at my house. And then I would stay at their house when I was down there. But sometimes they would come here and teach at our academy. And they'd be here for like 5 or 6 months, which was good because then it was like high level, you know, black belt here for me to train with all the time. But then they were also living at my house, and some of those guys like knew no English and had zero desire to learn any English. So I was just like practicing my Portuguese with them all year long. And like my parents didn't know any Portuguese. So I was just kind of becoming translator. And then that's where I really learned was being around them all the time. But that I never took any more classes or anything. I was just around it so much that I either had to learn it or just be left out of the conversation all the time. So it was kind of like
sense. Yeah.
Sink or swim.
Yeah, I've heard you speak Portuguese. Yeah, you absolutely are fluent. I was pretty impressed with that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. In addition to training and teaching at Claudio Franca Brazilian Jiu Jitsu in Santa Cruz, are you still affiliated with Soul Fighters?
We never had a official affiliation with Soul Fighters or GF team. They were just friends of ours, and the guys would come out. Like I would fight either for GF team or Soul Fighters when I was in Brazil staying with the guys. They'd sign me up and I'd compete for them. And then when they were out here with us, even at the World, sometimes they would compete. Back then, like GF team didn't really have first it was UGF. It was the University of Gamma Filio. This was before GF team even existed. And they eventually became GF team, but they didn't have like any presence in the US. Neither did Soul Fighters. So when they would come up here, they'd stay with us and they'd fight under Claudio Franca a lot of times, like Tanquinho and Teodoro, and those guys would fight for us at Worlds and the tournaments here. And then I would fight for them down there. But was just like an informal, you know, and they used to be really good friends too, the GF team and Soul Fighters. When they do the Brazilian team nationals, they'd make one team together and stuff. So we're all just kind of like unofficially affiliated, but I never had a real official affiliation. And then once they started coming here and having a presence in the US and stuff, then I never competed for them anymore after that or anything, but I'm still good friends with Teodoro and all the guys from Soul Fighters. And also now they've all broken off. So there's double five. So I'm good friends with Formiga and Joao and all the guys that came from Soul Fighters and are double five now. Same with Queixinho and the guys that are on Aries. Marcus Antalante is on Aries now. And Queixinho is a good friend of mine, and Samir and all those guys. So yeah, I'm just got lots of friends in different places, and we're all buddies and train together. And yeah. And the guys from Kyle has been training a lot with Mason Fowler and Yuri and the guys over at Kyle Teja too. So yeah, but I've always been Claudio Franca from day one to the day I die.
There you go. Hey, loyalty is important. That's extremely important. I'm the same way, you know, with my coach. I'm very, very loyal to him.
Boss.
So like we stated earlier, you made third place at the A. Yeah, man, I'm really bad at these acronyms. The UAE JJF Abu Dhabi World earlier this year. You also got second place at the IBBJF New Orleans Open in 2021. And you're extremely close to being ranked in the top 10 in the world by Flow Grappling. I think last time I checked, you were currently slotted at number 11. What are your competition plans for the rest of the year for 2021?
So I just signed up for Boise Open. That's next month. So but then they just announced nationals too. So I got to decide whether I'm going to try to hit both of those, or if I'm just going to focus just on nationals. I won nationals at heavyweight last year, in December. So I'm like the current heavyweight national champion, but they didn't even give me a whole year to have the title. They like set up another national 6 months later. I'm like, what's up with this, dude? What's
That's
the
not
deal?
fair.
What's the deal? But but so I'm definitely going to do nationals though. That's in Vegas. So I may do both of those, or I may just focus on nationals. And then, yeah, I got to keep looking forward. I try to compete at least every month. I missed the first couple months of the year because I was planning on focusing on World Pro, and it was supposed to be in November of last year. And then I went down and did Copa Podio in Brazil, and then I was supposed to come back, spend a week here, and then go out to Dubai and do World Pro. But then they changed it from November to February. And so then I said, I'm not going to do anything I had already won nationals in December. I'm not going to do anything until World Pro. And then they got within like a week of it, and then they changed it again. And then I was like, dang. And then they like didn't tell us when it was going to be. And then they announced it like three weeks beforehand. I was kind of bummed because I'm like, geez, how are you supposed to train for a world tournament in 3 weeks? But it ended up working out. And I made it out there for that. But I missed the first 2 months of the year because I was going to focus on World Pro. And then when they moved it, then it was too late to sign up for like the tournaments in March too. So I ended up missing March, and then I was going to do another one. And then it was like they announced World Pro. So I ended up missing that one too. So I spent like the first 3 months of the year without competing, which was kind of a bummer, but now I'm trying to pack them in the rest of the year. So definitely trying to do at least one tournament a year, or one tournament a month, at the very least, maybe more than that.
Nice. Are you primarily sticking with gi for this year, or are you going to do gi and no gi?
I've only competed as a black belt once, no gi. Because it's never been my forte. But that was a mistake. I should have been competing no gi. At my gym, we don't have a lot of no gi. So I ended up convincing Claudio to let me put a no gi class every week, but it's not as packed as a gi class is. So I just historically haven't trained a whole lot of no gi, and now they added in all the reaping and the heel hooks and all that. But I do have the opportunity to train it a lot with Mason and Yuri and Kyle and those guys over there. They focus a lot on, and those guys are really good at no gi. So, but I generally go on the gi days, and I'm just stuck in my own wheelhouse. And I'm like, I got to train more no gi before I sign up for a no gi tournament. But then it's like kind of the chicken and the egg type of a thing, because it's like, if I don't sign up for the tournament, then I'm not motivated to want to train at no gi, So, and I do want to do the ADCC trials. And I think November is when it is. So I just got to sign up for an OGI tournament like a month or two out, and then just start going over there and doing the comp training with those guys no gi. Because I mean, Mason's amazing no gi, Yuri's amazing no gi. Yuri's multiple-time ADCC champion.
Right.
Yuri's Mason's SUG champ, and he's like just a beast without the gi. So yeah, so you guys are gonna start seeing me no gi, but my goal is to start competing no gi before the end of the year.
Nice. I'm actually forward to looking out for that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. How important do you feel strength and conditioning training is for success in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition?
I think it's really important. I mean, I think you see 90% of the guys that are at the top level are doing strength and conditioning. but that doesn't mean that it's not possible to be top level without doing that and only doing jiu-jitsu training. I mean, it depends on the person. I think Caio doesn't do really much weightlifting. I know Marcelo Garcia doesn't do much weightlifting. I know Claudio is a really top level competitor in his day. He wasn't really doing a lot of lifting. But nowadays it's like, I mean, it's hard. You're kind of the rare person if you don't do any weightlifting or anything, and you're still top level. But then what that looks like for you is going to depend on you, your game. I think people go in waves. Like one time I went down to train with Homolo, and I was asking him, Homolo Bahal, and I was asking him what his regimen looked like, and he said he was like training jiu-jitsu twice a day every day, and then he was doing one like half hour really intense like CrossFit style workout a week, and then one like heavier lifting day a week. And I was like, okay, that sounds good for me. And then like a couple weeks passed, and then he's like, my training now, and he like posted it on Instagram, and it was like Monday strength and conditioning and jiu-jitsu, Tuesday weightlifting and jiu-jitsu, Wednesday strength and conditioning. It was like he was doing like strength and conditioning every day. And then I was like, master, I thought you told me you're only doing strength and conditioning like twice a week. And he's like, yeah, I just decided to switch it up. And so I think that's how people are. It's like, you got to go in waves. Sometimes you're like I feel like right now I'm not lifting as heavy because I spent like almost a year where I was doing like a lot of heavy lifting. I put on a lot of weight. I gained a lot of strength, but then I also felt like my gas was suffering. Like I was really strong, but I was getting tired more quickly. So I kind of laid off the really heavy like PRs, and now I've been doing like a lot of CrossFit, and then doing a lot of jiu-jitsu. And I think the more that the times where I feel the best is when I'm really pushing myself and doing hard jiu-jitsu training, but it's like I'm kind of taking advantage of that time that I did heavy lifting. So I've got that strength that I gained from that time. And now I'm just like coasting on that and training more jiu-jitsu and not on that as much. And then like, eventually I'll go into a new phase probably where I'll want to go back and start lifting again more heavy. And I think it's important, for your body, and you to kind of feel what you need and go through waves of how much you're leaning on one thing or the other. But definitely more like hard jiu-jitsu training is, I mean, always the thing that's really going to lead to more progress,
Yeah, I think like Marcelo Garcia, I remember hearing him talk about that, like where he said that he didn't like to lift weights. He actually only did it one time, I think, in preparation for a tournament, and he never did it again. And I think he's the exception to the rule.
Right.
I also believe that Homolo has been training with Juggernaut Training down in Southern California. Chad, I can't remember his last name off the top of my head right now, but he's a former powerlifter, big athlete, thrower.
Yeah.
So, they've been putting a lot of stuff on YouTube as far as what they're doing, as far as their strength and conditioning. It seems like, push, pull, hinge, squat, basic stuff, which is good. It's basically what I do. But I do understand what you're saying about the whole thing about you put on more muscle and you get gassed out. I mean, the extra muscle mass requires more oxygen. Right. So, it does make an issue. I'm actually going to find out hopefully this year pretty quick when I get back to regular training, because I put on probably 10 pounds this year, because during the pandemic, I really just lifted weights. It's really what I did. And I put about 10 pounds on.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, at 49, I was pretty proud of the accomplishment, but we'll see what happens. I mean, so far I've rolled a little bit. It hasn't been as bad as I thought it might be. But we'll see, I'll go from there, but I've been doing a lot of heavier lifting and so forth. So
my suggestion is, when you start getting back to it, what I noticed really helped me start moving the weight better again was doing like CrossFit style workouts, going run a mile and then come back and do your, deadlifts, not as heavy, but do like high rep. And then, how CrossFit workouts, so I get on the rower, do the bike, and then run, and then jump. And it just starts to get you used to like moving that weight more, and really helps you like red line your gas, because when we're in jiu-jitsu, it's like we get tired, but our goal is not to get too tired. You're trying to like use your technique and moderate and use your gas strategically. Like when you're in CrossFit, the whole point is to go as hard as you can and get as tired as possible, you know? So it really gets you redlining that gas, get your heart pumping and your lungs going. And then it really helps you get used to, get your lungs used to powering a heavier machine, you know?
Mm. Yes, exactly. What are your thoughts on mobility and conditioning training? So conditioning sort of goes into the CrossFit. It does, but what about mobility?
I think it's huge, and people are just like, I get frustrated trying to tell people how much yoga helps me. I was like, oh, I don't want to do it. Oh, it doesn't sound fun. And I'm just like, okay, so if it doesn't sound fun and you don't want to do it, then don't complain to me about your pulled hamstring and this injury and that. I don't want to hear it, because I tell you do yoga and you tell me I don't want to do it and this and that. So I'm like, so don't complain to me then. I'm giving you the solution and you're just writing it off. So don't complain. I just don't want to hear it, you know. But since I've been taking CBD, I've got like a new CBD sponsor, Santa Cruz Medicinals. If people want to get it, you can use my discount code Nathan15, and they have like really potent formulas, you know, because sometimes you get this like BS CBD that's like 25 milligrams. Like they have like the 6,000 milligram formulas, and like taking that every day and then doing yoga, like I feel like I can train more. And we don't realize how much like our lack of mobility limits our jujitsu. You know, it's like when you have, and you know, yoga's more than just flexibility, because you have to stay in those poses. That gets you used to using all the stabilizer muscles that you need to be able to stay in these poses, to squat onto one leg, to balance, you know, and it gets your core really strong and all these things that we need in jiu-jitsu. So it gets to this point where like you're passing guard, I just feel like I can like squat down into a low squat and hold that forever. You know, if I'm doing like a beating bolo or somebody's trying to pass my guard, like I can just put my legs out to the side or get smashed up and still be able to breathe, and it's not making me uncomfortable. And dude, it's been making a huge difference to my jiu-jitsu. I love the hot yoga, you know, go and get it's all, you know, super sweaty and it makes you just feel all limber and everything. And man, it's been really helping a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying, a lot of people have been using yoga lately or getting into yoga that are in jiu-jitsu, and it's something I have a strong interest in now as well. I totally right there with you as far as what you're saying about it. I think it has a lot of positive attributes to doing it. And I think you actually get some isometric strength too from holding the poses.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, exactly. That's huge. And also, what was I going to say about that? Oh, when you're putting on weight, when you're putting on more muscle, you know, people tend to think that you're going to get less flexible and whatever. And like, I remember there was a guy that used to train with us back in the day, and that he was jacked, like way more jacked than me. And like, and he was just super flexible. And he's like, dude, people say that you put on muscle and you lose flexibility, but not if you stretch and do yoga. And that's
exactly. Like,
I've got the most muscle I've ever had, and I'm more flexible than I've ever been. You know, it's just like, you know, you just gotta, of course, if you don't ever stretch and you just get yoked and you're not stretching, then you're going to lose flexibility. But if you're working on it, then one thing doesn't really have anything to do with the other, you know?
Right. And also, you know, training full range of motion. You know, if you're going to do a squat, go all the way, go ass to grass, go all the way down. Don't do this, you know, quarter squat bullshit. They're not going to get any mobility out of that. You're also going to be weaker in certain positions, like the bottom, like, you know, getting, you know, smashed in an open guard, and somebody's pushing your legs into your shoulders, and you can't deal with it, you know? So what's your diet like? Can you give us an example of what you might eat in a day?
So, my diet lately, like, honestly, I've been kind of lazy with breakfast. Like breakfast, I'll have coffee, water, and then I'll usually just have like a Cliff Bar in the morning before my first thing. And then my lunch, I'll do like rice, beans, and then some type of protein, either chicken, or I'll do like bacon and eggs. And then I like saute up some vegetables. So I'll do like zucchini and asparagus or broccoli, and I just throw it all into the pan with some olive oil and cook it up a little bit. And then I throw all that together. Sometimes I'll put some guacamole on top. And then at night, I basically do the same thing. It's like, I get chicken. I get these like pre-made, like cooked chicken from Trader Joe's. So if I
Mhm.
did like eggs and bacon in the afternoon, then I'll do chicken at night, or vice versa. And I just basically eat like that every day, and if I'm not cutting weight, then I allow myself to eat something different if I'm at a restaurant or going out or whatever. But I try on the regular to basically just eat at home, and I just kind of eat that way every day.
No, nice. It actually sounds pretty, very close to actually what I do too. I find it effective. Have you ever done intermittent fasting or?
I did that when I was cutting weight. Um, this in like 2019. Um, and I liked it. I don't have a hard time. I would do some fast, like 30, 30, what is it, 36-hour fast, where
Oh, yeah.
I would stop eating at 10 at night on Sunday, and then I wouldn't eat until 10 in the morning on Tuesday. Um, and that wasn't actually that hard. It wasn't as hard as you'd think.
Mm.
Um, and then and then I was doing some like that where I wouldn't eat until like 2 in the afternoon, and then I would allow myself to eat until like 10 at night. So when I get home, because I have a hard time not eating after training.
Yeah.
um, so I train until like 8 o'clock a lot of times. So then I would come home and have dinner. And I know that's not how you're technically supposed to do it. You're supposed to do it from like noon to 8 or 10 to 6 or something, I think is the best.
Mm.
But it's just hard for me, like not being able to eat dinner. So I found it just mentally was easier for me to do um, two, just to like not eat in the morning and just hold off, and by 2 I'm like super hungry, and then eat at 2, and then after that I could eat basically until I went to bed at 10 at night. And that worked pretty good. But lately I've just been kind of on a more normal schedule, just eat a little 3 meals a day, and kind of have a little snack here and there in between if I need energy.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I basically fast every day. But I basically do the same thing where I'll start later in the afternoon so then I can eat into the evening.
Yeah.
I don't like saying, oh, I'm going to cut it off at 6 o'clock. And then I'm sitting there going crazy when I'm
Yeah.
watching TV or whatever I'm doing.
All right. That's smart.
But yeah, I mean, I find that it's easy for me to fast in the morning because of work. I'm just distracted working. So I don't
Right.
think about it. And I usually don't start eating until like 2 or 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to get your idea what you felt from it. I like it. I've done it for years, and
Oh,
I
nice.
find it works pretty good.
Nice.
Are there other foods that you avoid?
I try to avoid like greasy food. I don't. I try not to eat like um, potato chips and fries, and I'll have a burger every once in a while, but it's also not the thing that I'm just like, oh, I really need that. Um, my problem is I like sweets, so I'll have like some sweets every once in a while. Um, but like I like burritos, but it's like so greasy. I just don't feel like eating it all the time. Like I'll have like a burrito from Chipotle or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, fast food. I don't remember the last time I ate McDonald's. I try my very best not to eat like anything like that. That I would eat anything else in the world other than that. If I'm gonna have fast food, it would be like In and Out. I like In
Yeah,
and Out.
exactly. I'm exactly the same way. But McDonald's is freaking poison, man.
Right.
I haven't put a bite of McDonald's in my mouth in probably when I'm 49 now, so at least 7 or 8 years.
Nice.
Yeah, I just won't eat it. I won't eat Burger King. I won't eat McDonald's. I won't eat Jack in the Box. I won't eat any of that crap.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Taco
do
Bell.
fast food, it's In and Out Burger. Once in a while, it'll be Five Guys, or Chipotle. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if it's a burger, it's usually In and Out Burger. I just won't touch McDonald's. It's garbage.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I know some people love it. I mean, yeah, it tastes good. I used to eat it all the time when I was younger. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I think about the health benefits of it or the health
Definitely.
issues with it. And I'm just like,
Yeah,
no, I just won't eat it.
I know it's horrible.
Yeah. So basically, you're saying your favorite cheap food would probably be sweets then, like candy and
Cheap
chocolate.
food, yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, yeah. Let me think. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sweets is huge for me. Then also, we have a restaurant here, a Hawaiian restaurant, where they have
Mm.
this chicken katsu. It's like this fried chicken thing, like Hawaiian style
Oh, I
fried
know where
chicken.
that is. It's over off it's right by Twin Lakes.
Yeah, it's here,
Yeah.
Aloha
What's it
Island
called
Grill.
again? It's
Aloha Island Grill.
Aloha. Yeah, I ate
Yeah,
there. Oh, yeah, it's pretty good.
that, that's like right by my house here,
Yeah.
so I love that, man. That's like my
Mhm.
favorite. I also like milkshakes. Milkshakes are
Yeah.
really good.
Milkshakes are good. Yeah. Uh, what advice would you give regarding mental preparation for competition, both leading up to the event and at the event itself? Because I know, a lot of people, like, even including myself, as like hobbyists and, recreational competitors, we may make these local competitions into something bigger than they really are in our own
Right.
heads, and we get all wound up about it, and then we get stressed out and have anxiety, and
Yeah.
so it can affect our performance. What would you say if you were like talking to one of your students about preparing for a tournament? What would you say?
I got a lot of stuff to say about that, and I'm going to start posting on my YouTube too. So I'm about to relaunch my YouTube, so people check that out too. Nathan Mendelsohn, BJJ on YouTube. I've got some videos up now from like over a year ago, and I haven't been posting them recently, but I'm backing up content, and I'm gearing up to start posting. I'm also going to start doing some like coaching for a limited number of people to help get them ready for tournaments and stuff, so people can get in contact with me over that too, and I can really delve into some more of this stuff. But I'm going to be posting a lot of content about this on YouTube. But there's a lot of things about um, mental game that are really important. One is it's not the end of the world, so don't build it up like you're saying, like people build up this local
Mm-hmm.
tournament like it's such a big deal. Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't put pressure on yourself. Realize that. Don't worry about if you're going to lose. Like, people end up making themselves lose by being so worried about what's going to happen if they lose. It's not the end of the world if you lose. It's not the beginning of everything if you win. It's like, you're going to win or lose, then you're going to look back at what you did. When you win, you probably did good things and bad things. Like, you did things well and not
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you won didn't mean you did everything well. And when you lose, also, you probably did some things well and some things not well. So when you get done with the tournament, just look back at what you did, try to be honest in your evaluation. And then, if you got a medal, be stoked about that medal, and then put it on the wall, and then go back to training. And then if you didn't get a medal, then don't put the medal on the wall because you don't have one, and just go back to training. And then you just gotta just churn that process, and the the results come from that. They don't come from you like building up this tournament, and I'm going to train so hard for it, and I'm going to want it so bad, and this is the do or die, and I have to do this. And then you're probably always going to lose if you do that. You just have to not look past the tournament, but know that each tournament is just a part of your overall journey. So the more you can be competing, the more you can turn that process of compete, train, and then that becomes like a feedback loop, and you don't want to break that loop. So if you build up to a tournament, and then when the tournament's done, you take off a month, then you basically undid everything that you could have gained from doing that tournament. And like, I try to teach my students that like tournaments are an extension of your training. They're not a test. Like, people look at them as a test. It's like, I get better in training, and then I go to see where I'm at in a tournament. But that's not really what it is. It's like, it's just you're probably going to get better from your even more, as much or more of your evolution is going to come from your tournaments as from training. So it's just an extension of your training. Whether you won or lost, you're going to get better from the fact that you did that tournament. So when you do it, then the main thing is that you have to go back to training and keep training, because then that's when it's gonna boost you. Even if you lost, it's gonna boost you because you're gonna be more motivated. You're gonna train harder. You're gonna be more focused. If you win, then you get a boost of like confidence, and it starts to take you to this next level of like believing in yourself, and you bring a new gas to training. And so you have to do that. And then when you start to string tournament after tournament after tournament, then that's when you really start going. But if you say, oh, I'm gonna train for this tournament, I'm gonna train super hard, and then you take off 2 weeks and just drink every day and whatever after that, then you kind of cut that. So and then
Right.
you have to start back again, you fell back down and you have to start it again. So, and then if you start to just look at it like that, it takes some of the pressure off yourself, because it's like, you can't go into the tournament like, oh, if I lose this one, it's okay. But you also know that it's just one more step. So there's always going to be another one coming after and another one coming after. And you have to learn how to just focus on winning and not on losing. So if you're already thinking about, it's okay if I lose, or what's going to happen if I lose, or it's not okay if I lose, that I can't lose, then you're focusing on losing. So then you're going to create a losing mentality. So if you're just focused on winning, so what I try to tell people to do is focus on the fact that it's going to be fun. Why is it going to be fun? Because winning's fun. So
Right.
I'm going to win, and just focus on that beforehand. And then that may happen or not happen, but either way, you already know it's not the end of the world. So just focus on that. And when you're having fun and you have positive emotions connected to that experience, then you're like, like those times when you go to train and you're just really excited to train. You may be tired, you may be physically beat down, you may be whatever, but you're like excited to train that day and you're having fun. You end up beating everybody up. The tournament's the same thing. If you're just like excited and you're having fun and you want to do it and you want to be there, then you're going to have a good performance. If you're like, oh, I don't, oh, this is so much, this is so heavy, and I have to win, it's do or die, and you make it in this negative experience, then you're not going to do well. And then like one thing that I think Danaher is kind of a weirdo, but one of the things that I heard that he said that worked really good was that he tries to do the opposite of, like, same type of a thing. He tries to do the opposite of building up the tournament in his students' minds. Instead of he tries to build it down. So he's like, this is exactly what you do every day. This is no different than training. You do, just imagine you're going into training. Instead of like a lot of coaches are like, you have to do this. This is the time. Let's do this. Let's go. And then it makes it into this special thing. And all of a sudden in your head, you're like, oh, I'm not used to this. This is what's the deal. When it's really like, no, just like break it down to what it is. It's just you doing jiu-jitsu like you do every Monday through Friday, And if you do that, then you're going to let your jiu-jitsu, you'll get out of your own way,
Sweet. All right, great. How did you start rapping, and how long have you been doing it?
I've been rapping for probably 20 years. So I started when I was like 12. I started writing rhymes and stuff, and that I used to be into, my dad was always into like soul music, so he was always into Curtis Mayfield and Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye and Parliament Funkadelic and Tower of Power and and also reggae music, Steel Pulse and Bob Marley and all of that. So then the transition to hip hop as I started to get older and was like getting into my own taste was pretty easy, because it's, hip hop kind of has its roots in like soul music and stuff like that, and then I heard In the Club, I think by 50 Cent was like, I had heard hip hop music obviously before that, but that was like one song where I was just like, I like this, and I was like 12 years old, and I had a cousin, my cousin Cody, he grew up in the Bay. He grew up in Oakland, and he was into rock music too, but he was always into hip hop ever since forever. And he always tried to get me into hip hop, and I was just not into it until I was like 12. And then I heard that song and I started getting into it. And then my dad bought me the Get Rich or Die Trying, and he got me the explicit version. And he's like, don't tell your mom I got you the explicit. I kind of got it on accident. He didn't realize that it was the explicit one. He's like, oh shit, don't tell your mom. And then that was it. Like I learned all the lyrics to that album back to front, and then I just like I'm kind of that way. Like when I get into something a lot, like I really like stories and movies and comic books and stuff, and I like to write. So I always like to write stories, fictional stories and stuff, because obviously I'm not going to make a movie or something, but I can write a story. So I like to kind of participate in the things. I get like inspired like that, and so when I really got into hip hop, I like almost immediately started writing rhymes, and then from 50 Cent, I went to Eminem, and then Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and NWA and Tupac and Wu-Tang Clan and Nas, and then started going to the more underground stuff, MF Doom and all the guys from Rhyme Sayers, and got really into the the underground hip hop stuff, and I always resisted like the industry stuff for the longest time, and then eventually I realized that that's just dumb too, because there's a lot of good stuff out there that's new school and more popular and stuff. So I started getting into that too, and then lately I've been really getting into like R&B, like new school R&B stuff too. I really like some of the stuff people are doing, like The Weeknd and Bryson Tiller and all those guys. I really like Drake's stuff. You know, Drake gets a lot of hate, but I like his stuff a lot too. And but also Joyner Lucas and Logic and all those guys. And when we were like young, we had this like reggae video game on Xbox, and we found a way to like route it through the DVR so that we could put our own beats onto it, and then we could record our rhymes through the TV. And then we found a way to like burn CDs, so we recorded it like in a super ghetto way like that, and then we burned a bunch of CDs, and we made like little covers for them and handed them out downtown and to our friends and stuff. And then just ever since then, just been making music and stuff. And then I fell off of doing it as much for a while, and then I started getting more back into it when I got the idea to start doing hip hop about jiu-jitsu, because then I'm like, oh, this is a way that I could actually maybe get a lot of people to hear it, you know. And so the ball's been rolling on that. I got some cool ideas. I'm going to do a music video with Homolo. I'm starting to pump that up a little bit. I filmed some stuff with him. He's going to be in the video. And then I did the one, No G and Gi, making fun of G and Gi, and people really like that. And then I hooked up with these two Brazilian rappers, MCDD and Billy MC. And we're friends with the guy that has a YouTube called BJJ Emotions, and they've been doing songs on there for years. And they just I just hooked in with them, so I'm about to do a new song with Billy. And Billy's got one song with 3 million views on BJJ Emotions, another one that has like 1.5 million, and all of their songs have like over a quarter or over 500,000 and stuff. And we did one song together, Bonde Dois Maga Osso, that's on BJJ Emotions, and it's at like 110,000 views so far.
Wow.
We posted like 9 months ago and stuff. So yeah, there's a bunch of cool stuff coming. It's just kind of like a dream, you know. I'm definitely not gonna, you know, become some rich like rapper or anything, but just to have like, I was always like, dude, if I could get 100 people to listen to my music, I'd be stoked. At some point, you know, so I have 100,000 people like hear the song, I'm like, well, this is like a dream come true. So it's been kind of cool. And then you're gonna be on the cover of so I did Kimura Chop Volume 1, and then I've already got the art for Volume 2. So now we're working on the art for Volume 3. So
nice. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to that. I wasn't going to bring it up unless you did, but yeah, I'm actually really stoked that you asked me to do the cover for that. So I've been biting at the bit, trying to like get some time to talk to you about what you wanted to do. And I've been looking at pictures and rolling stuff in my head. So yeah, I'm actually really, I'm stoked to see my work on something actually produced, you know? So,
that's dope.
So you did mention something. You said that you like comic books.
I
like comic books. I'm a bit of a geek.
I can imagine. I saw your art.
Yeah, so I have to draw that kind of stuff, and I'm trying to do other stuff, but I keep, you know, going back. And I take a break from it, I always go back to what's comfortable to get my mojo going again. It's always comic books, especially Batman. That guy, I don't know what it is about Batman, but I love Batman. Who's your favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero's got to be Invincible.
Really?
Oh man. I mean, I love Batman too. I love Batman, and my original favorite was Spawn back in the day. And then Spawn, I like Spawn, but somewhere the storytelling kind of went off the rails in Spawn, I feel like. But I love Batman. I love Ultimate Spider-Man. That's one of my favorite ones. I love the Great Capullo. And Scott Snyder. Scott Snyder, right? I think is the name of the writer for Batman when they did 0 Year and all that.
Yeah,
that was amazing. That was super good. And but I fall off a little bit with like the big ones like Marvel and DC and stuff, because they start to do these things where they've been out for so long, and so they start like killing off characters and then bringing them back, and then the whole world resets and everybody loses their memory, and then they have like these crossovers. It's like, oh, if you want to hear this part of the story, then read this other comic. And I'm just like, I like the ones that are all encapsulated into one one thing, like a TV show style. And, you know, so I really like Robert Kirkman. Like I got into Walking Dead way before it was ever a TV show. And then through Walking Dead, I got into Invincible. And oh my God, own all the volumes of Invincible, and I've read through it so many times. And so I'm so stoked. Have you seen the show yet?
No, I haven't seen it. I do
Oh,
want to check it out. I saw it on Netflix. It's on there. I think I'm gonna
it's
check
on
it out.
Amazon,
Yeah.
Amazon
It's on
Prime.
Amazon? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to, dude. You have to watch it. It's
I
so
will. I'll check it out.
amazing. I was so like, the Walking Dead show was cool, but for me being someone that was into the comics, like I'm super into the comics,
Right.
I wasn't that into the show. You know, it was like kind of cool, but the Invincible animated show, they literally took the source material, stayed so true to it, but improved it and expanded on it, which is exactly what you want from a show when you're like a fan. You know, oh my God, it's amazing. Believe me, you're gonna love it. It's so
check it out.
realistic.
Have you seen The Boys?
The Boys is good too. I like The Boys a lot too.
I did like that. I got somebody else recommended it. I checked that out and I watched it and I binged it. I was like, this is really good. And I binged it in like a couple of days. And you said Spawn.
Yeah.
I heard that Todd McFarlane is actually working on a new live action movie starring Jamie Foxx as Spawn.
I'd like to believe it. We've been hearing that
for a long time now.
For a long time.
Yeah. And the last thing I heard about it was that Spawn's not actually in it till like the end of the movie. It's like the last little bit of the movie. I'm like, what? You know,
I've heard they're gonna try to do kind of one of those horror movie things where you only see, they do a lot of build up and you only see him as like a flash in the corner and everything. And I'm just like, that's what I didn't like as much about the comics, is eventually they started doing kind of that where it was like surrounding these side characters, and then Spawn was like a supporting character, and then they started doing a bunch of, now they're back to making it more like, but now doesn't look like Spawn anymore. He's Al Simmons again. And it's just like, I don't know, the storytelling kind of started lacking but I want it like back, like the original, the first few issues where he's like, just came back to Earth and it's following him and this struggle of him and the, you know, that, I mean, like the animated show is actually really good too, but
yeah, I remember that. It was on HBO like years ago, I believe. Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah.
Totally. This tortured hero that's like stuck between, like he doesn't even want to be a hero. He just wants to see his wife, and then she's with this another man, and then knows every time he uses his powers, it's ticking down the time he's going to get sent back to hell, and then he has to bulge this general in hell, and then they do all these cool things where they keep like showing you, like, you know, you're so interested to know what hell's actually like and what heaven's actually like, and then they show you the angels and they show you another sphere of hell, and then and it keeps like feeding you. It's like super engrossing, you know. It's like they could do something like that with a movie with Spawn, but I don't know, then they want to do it some other thing where he's like a supporting character. So if it even happens, I'm like, I'm not putting too much. It's
like Jaws. It's like Jaws. They didn't even show the shark till like the end of the movie, you know?
Right.
You know? Same thing. Yeah. Same idea.
Yeah.
So how can people contact you? I guess you're on Instagram at Nathan Mendelsohn BJJ. You're on Facebook at Nathan Mendelsohn. And then you have your Nathan Mendelsohn BJJ YouTube channel, as you mentioned. Sure. And again, like we said earlier, Claudio Franca Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is located in Santa Cruz. It's 1658 SoCal Drive in Santa Cruz. It's right by the hospital, correct?
Yeah, right across the street from Dominican there. It's right off the SoCal exit. We're like right off the exit.
Are you guys open now again, or?
Yep. We're open. You guys come through. I teach Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights, and Wednesday at 6 p.m. and Wednesday and Friday mornings at 9 a.m. And then I'm usually training on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. I teach at our San Jose location too at 6:30 p.m. on Mondays. So yeah, definitely come through. We love having guests. Also,
where's that located? In San Jose.
San Jose? It's on Union Ave. I forget the exact address, but it's you can see it on Google pretty easy. Claudio Franca BJJ San Jose.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nice facility there. And then also plug in on Apple Music or Spotify or anything, and you can find my first album, Kimura Trap Volume 1. I'm Elite Technique on there, and you can see it, Kimura Trap Volume 1. All jiu-jitsu themed hip hop. So nice. I got some cool stuff up there too.
Awesome. Hey, well, thank you very much for agreeing to come on my podcast and speak to me today. It was an awesome conversation. I
Course.
hope you'll come back and we could have another one in the future.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Course.